Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today, we're going to be ranking all of the Progen vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online in tier list form. Now, if you've never seen one of my tier list videos before, there is something that you need to know before we get into this list. This list is 100% factual and cannot be argued with. If you disagree, you are simply wrong, you are incorrect, I am right. Now, if you cannot accept these terms and conditions, you should exit off of the video immediately because you're not wanted here. With that being said, it's time to start off with F tier. To start off the list, we of course have the Progen Tyrus. Now I want to make this perfectly clear before we go any further. I actually do really like the Progen Tyrus. There's actually not a Progen vehicle in this game that I don't like. However, the Tyrus, for what it is very expensive and kind of underwhelming performance-wise. Now the Tyrus is a quick car, it does have very good downforce, it has a very good turning radius. However, the problem with this car is it goes for $2,500,000, which is a lot of money for a car that's not even close to the top 10 fastest supercars in the game around a track. So price for performance is really bad with the Tyrus. On top of that, it doesn't have that much customization. It's got a little bit, don't get me wrong, but not enough to really justify the $2.5 million price tag. It has decent enough acceleration, it's got an okay top speed, its handling is by far its best feature, and I have to say it does handle very nicely. However, I don't know if it's $2.5 million nicely because the car itself is just not that fast. It's a great car, I really like the look of it. It's based off of a McLaren F1, which is a fantastic car. However, unfortunately, I just don't think that the Tyrus is the best Progen vehicle, and something always has to go in F tier. So today, it's the Progen Tyrus. So with that being said, that's it for the Tyrus. It's time to move on. Next up in F tier, we have the Progen Itali GTB. Now the Progen Itali GTB is not that bad of a car. I don't want anyone to get me wrong here. Now the only reason that this thing is ahead of the Tyrus for me is because it is a lot more reasonably priced. This thing goes for $1.2 million and it's got way better customization and it's honestly probably got better performance than the Tyrus overall as well. Now that's not to say that the Tyrus is bad. The Tyrus definitely handles better than the Itali GTB. However, the Itali GTB does have a little bit better acceleration and probably around the same top speed, but I think that this thing might even be a little bit quicker in a straight line. Now the GTB, $1.2 million, and it gets tons and tons of customization options, which does help a lot. Now the Itali GTB for $1.2 million makes a lot more sense to buy to me than the Progen Tyrus because you can use this thing for more than just racing. It is a really good free mode car, it has tons of customization, lots of things that you can do to it to make it a little bit more unique and make it more your own. So it does earn a higher spot than the Tyrus. Simply, bang for your buck, this thing is kind of better. You could buy two of these and almost customize them fully for the price of one Tyrus, which is kind of crazy to think about. So for the last vehicle in F tier, we of course have the Progen Itali GTB. With that being said, it's time to move on to C tier. Next up for our C tier vehicle, we have the Progen GP1. Now the GP1 is also based off of the McLaren F1, similar to the Tyrus. However, the GP1 is like the road going version of the car instead of like the race car. So it's a little bit more usable on the streets, I feel like. On top of that, it also has a lot more customization and it goes for about $1.2 million. So it's a lot cheaper than the Tyrus. So if you really are a McLaren F1 fan, I'd say go for the GP1 over the Progen Tyrus because this thing is just, well, kind of better, honestly. Now, as far as the statistics of this car goes, the handling is very nice. Not quite as nice as the Tyrus, but definitely I would say on par with the Progen Itali GTB. It is also very quick in a straight line. It has great acceleration and it also has a very respectable top speed. It's a great looking car as well, obviously, like I said, based off of the McLaren F1. I think that this thing is a lot less ugly than the Progen Itali GTB. And overall, I would say it performs at least on par with the GTB, if not better in some certain cases. For example, with the acceleration and the top speed, I do believe that the GP1 is actually better than the GTB. As far as bang for your buck goes, the GP1 is better than the GTB and the Tyrus, so if you want a vehicle on this list so far, I would pick up the Progen GP1, but we're not quite done yet, so we have a few more vehicles to go over. So anyway guys, the GP1 is a very good car, definitely better than the other two, but still not quite the best. So with that being said, let's move on to B tier. Next up, we have the Progen Itali GTB Custom to start off B tier. Now this thing goes for $1.2 million plus the cost of upgrading it at Benny's, which I believe is somewhere in the neighborhood of between $300k to $800k. It's been a long time since I've customized it, so I honestly don't remember anymore. This is a really good car. Now the GTB Custom obviously gives the regular GTB a wide body kit, as you guys can see by the bolted arches here and the wider stance of the car. I know, incredible. It gives it a range of more customization options. It also increases the power output ever so slightly, so this thing is a little tiny bit faster than the regular Progen Itali GTB. On top of all of this, it also improves the handling of the vehicle quite significantly. I noticed such a big difference between this and the regular GTB, and I think it's largely because of the wide body kit. Now, of course, making this thing into the custom variant will cost you some extra money, so the thing is a little bit less bang for your buck maybe than the regular GTB, but it is still better nonetheless. On top of that, it also gets livery options, which is really cool. So overall, the GTB Custom, little tiny bit faster, more customization, handles a little bit better, probably the same top speed realistically. It might be ever so slightly higher on the GTB Custom, but not enough to really make a difference, nothing that you would really notice, I don't think. If you are going to buy a Progen Itali GTB, I would definitely say I recommend to upgrade it into the custom variant because it is just a better vehicle. This thing is also all-wheel drive, so is the regular GTB, but I forgot to mention it, so I figured that I would mention it here instead. Overall, the GTB Custom is definitely my choice of the two Itali GTBs, and it is of course the one that I recommend. So that's it for B tier. It's time to move on to A tier. And for A tier, of course, we have the Progen T20. Now the T20 is a car that I ended up selling almost my entire supercar collection to buy this back in the day when it first came out. This is a really cool car. It goes for $2,200,000, so at one point this was the most expensive car in all of Grand Theft Auto Online. However, the times have definitely changed by now, so that is interesting. And also to my knowledge, the Progen T20 is the first vehicle that was added into Grand Theft Auto Online that has an active rear spoiler, which is really cool. As you guys can see, this thing sticks up and down out of the back of the vehicle, and it also acts as an air dam to help with braking on the car. Now, I'm not sure that the air brake is actually functional, but I know that the spoiler is functional when it is up, so that is really cool. Now the T20 is a former fastest supercar in the entire game. However, nowadays it is probably pretty far out of the top 10 fastest, probably somewhere in the low 20s I would say, but it is still a really cool car for free mode. It has some customization options, however not really enough to justify the $2.2 million price tag. However, it does have a lot of good stats and it is a really fun car to drive. It has great acceleration, has pretty decent handling as well. It does have all-wheel drive. The top speed is a little bit weaker, but we'll let it slide because of course it is the Progen T20. This is such a cool car. It's definitely one that I recommend a lot, just from personal experience, not even in terms of the list. The T20 is one of my favorite Progen vehicles in the entire game, maybe even my favorite Progen vehicle in the entire game. So that's pretty much it for the T20, guys. Definitely pick one of these things up if you don't have one already. It is truly a very great car. So that's it for the T20, and that is it for A tier. It's time to move on to what are truly the best Progen vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. To start off S tier, we have what is actually the most expensive car on all of Legendary Motorsport, and that is of course the Progen PR4. Now the Progen PR4, very cool vehicle. I do like this thing a lot. It is of course within the open wheel class, in case you were wondering. I'm sure many of you weren't though. Now the PR4, it's really interesting because this car, along with the Benefactor BR8 and the other two open wheel cars, they are all really similar. I've heard people say that the PR4 is the fastest open wheel car in the entire game. I don't know that I believe that. I think that the Benefactor BR8 is, but some people do say that, so I'm just gonna say it's one of the fastest open wheel cars in the game. There's only 4 of them, but it's one of the fastest, so there you go. Now what I will say about the PR4, it does have exceptionally good handling, as you guys can see. I am just like dodging. You could just dodge traffic all day in this thing. It's ridiculous. It is so agile. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't have a very good top speed, but the handling is that's where this thing shines. You're not buying an open wheel car for a high top speed. You're buying it because it handles insanely well. The PR4 is really cool. Of course, all the open wheel cars have pretty good customization. You can make your F1 car kind of look how you want to, which is, you know, nice. It's nice to have that ability, I guess. I've never been a truly huge fan of any of the open wheel cars, but the PR4 is pretty good, and it's definitely deserving of S tier because it is honestly one of the fastest Progen vehicles around a circuit in Grand Theft Auto Online, so how can I knock it? How can I say it's bad? It's just so damn good, to be honest. At the $3.5 million price tag though, I'm not sure that it's necessarily 100% worth it to buy this thing, but if you do want it, it is there. So that's pretty much it for the Progen PR4. Very good vehicle, has great brakes, great acceleration, pretty piss weak top speed, but it has exceptional handling, so that's where this thing shines. Anyway guys, that's it for the PR4. It's time to move on to what is the #1 Progen vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online at the time of recording this video. So let's get into it. And of course, I'm sure many of you saw this coming, but we have the Progen MRS as the best Progen vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now the reason that this thing is here is because it does the most in its category out of any of the Progen vehicles. This thing is regarded as the fastest supercar, if not the second fastest supercar, on last gen consoles. Now, if you're on new gen, the MRS is somewhere around probably 4th, 5th, 6th maybe. But on last gen, which is what I'm playing on currently, the MRS is really, really good. And it does more for its category than any of the other Progen vehicles in the game. So the MRS off the line is always absolutely terrible because it has insane wheel spin and it's rear wheel drive only, so it kind of does suffer there. However, once you get it up to operating speed, I like to call it, the MRS becomes a very, very good supercar. This thing has exceptional downforce and it is super, super agile at high speed. So on a lot of the supercar tracks, the MRS does succeed a lot more than the Krieger, which is regarded as the other fastest supercar in the game on last gen consoles, or on PC of course. This thing does have an advantage over it because it does have a better top speed and it does have higher downforce. So the MRS does tend to succeed on tracks with long sweeping corners and straightaways more so than the Krieger because it just has a little bit better of a top speed, and obviously it has much higher downforce. On top of this, the MRS also has pretty great customization. You can make this thing look absolutely awesome. As you guys can see, my customization, I have changed it since I did a customization video on it the other day, and I really, really like the look of it. It has lots and lots of options. Now, unfortunately, the MRS does go for quite a high price, $2,750,000, making it the second most expensive Progen vehicle in the entire game. However, this one is actually worth spending that much money on, unlike the Tyrus. You get good customization, you get good acceleration, you get a pretty great top speed, and you get excellent handling at higher speeds. So the Progen MRS truly is the best Progen vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online for general use. The only reason that it's better than the PR4 is because the PR4 is limited to open wheel races exclusively, which there's not that many of, and it's really not that popular of a game mode, whereas supercar races are kind of the cream of the crop in GTA when it comes to racing. So anyway guys, that's it for the MRS. It is the #1 Progen vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online at the top of S tier. So there you have it guys, that has been the ultimate Progen vehicle tier list in Grand Theft Auto Online. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you want to see more like this, a like is of course appreciated, if not dislike. Subscribe if you guys are new, comment down below and tell me that I'm right, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.